Hello, I'm Star, others call me Morgan, and if you like story times or if you like to watch me draw, I do a lot of those and should totally subscribe because not only is it free, but it helps me a lot and tells me that people actually watch the videos I put out. Anyway, let's get into the video for today. And if you're curious to what I'm making over here, it's a comic panel for one of my comics. So if you're interested in reading it, it's a sci-fi action and casual story of a world where a supercomputer goes rogue and becomes a god and tries to make every civilization in the universe to bend to its rules. And the first people to try and stop this whole mess are a bunch of rebels and two rock stars. I post updates from time to time, so if you're interested, my socials will be linked down below in the description. So now we're actually here for what you came for, the story. And why I chose this as my first story time? Well, it's probably because it's the most insane thing that I remembered while I was working at my first job, and I could basically almost recount every single detail that conspired there, so I was pretty traumatized. Like, every time I look back on it, I realize how toxic my first job was, and to be honest, I wish this wasn't the first job that I got, because everything that I got coming into this job is completely damaged because of what happened there, and I still get anxious trying to book off a day without lying for an event that's important, and then having it denied because it wasn't a valid reason. And when I say it literally destroyed my expectations, I literally mean it, because every new job I got onwards, I believed that almost everyone was out to get me when I first started, but it's not really what happened, because those jobs have shown me nothing but kindness and that they care. And in fact, the actual problem literally was my first job. So this was literally at a time in the middle of COVID and where businesses were still recovering from the first part of the pandemic. Slowly but surely, my mom kept nagging onto me to apply and apply again to jobs despite it being a pandemic where most stores would not be open at this time. And she was somewhat growing visibly annoyed that I wasn't doing anything at home. It was literally a pandemic. We had nothing to do but stay at home. So I got fed up and eventually started applying around, and I got a job, surprisingly, at a theater. So this is like the first job that I ever get after high school. And me going in with this whole new smile on would have never expected the hell that would later follow through in the years forward while working at this place. I didn't even see the red flags that came along with this place because I was just happy that my mom wouldn't have a reason to give me an earful about doing nothing. And secondly, I was finally able to save up for my dream tablet I've been eyeing since high school. When I first started working, it was pretty good. The vibes with the people I worked with were fun, and even if there were some things that would ruin the day, POV, a customer comes in accusing you of something that's out of your control, that I wouldn't have met some of my best friends to this day that I still talk to if I hadn't worked at this place. There were a few managers running the building at the time, and one of them was just hired alongside my group. And overall, I was just being super nice to everyone, even some of the people that I met along the way. But surely this would all diminish with the months following forward. This also included Mr. Manager, and I thought Mr. Manager was pretty chill. In fact, I thought he was the chillest guy ever. But past me, you should have seen the red flags after I found out how many cigarettes he was driving off during work. The first complaint with Mr. Manager was the fact that we'd call for this manager to help us out during the busy hours, but it'd take a few minutes for this guy to even respond, let alone show up, that the customers would grow impatient with us and then they'd get really antsy and then begin pressing their problems onto us, which we have literally no control over, and that it would be the manager would have to do it. But turns out Mr. Manager of the Year was out back smoking cigarettes when it wasn't even his break. Like, sure, it was annoying, but this wasn't the big issue that I took with him, and it was, in fact, that he had favoritism, and he'd allow people who should be getting into trouble with the things that they are doing without any consequences. Yeah, like that one time he'd allow his favorites to sit in the office and reward them for doing nothing, turning a blind eye to his favorites harassing employees about who's been sending emails about him, and then had the audacity to tell my coworker one time that he should not be distracting me when all he was asking of me was to fill his water bottle up with water at a time that was respectfully dead and had no customers. Where was that energy when one of your employees that you vouched to become a manager starts to spread harmful rumors about me? To fabricate a lie to make themselves look good because they are a people pleaser. And I take favoritism very personally because historically I've dealt with teachers through and through at school who have shown a degree of favoritism, and this has all ended up either negatively impacting my grades, my mental health, and even both. So I have a huge disdain for when people show favoritism. Like, I know there's favoritism regardless, but when you're in that position of power, you cannot be playing favorites like that, man. And then, like, the first problems would begin to reveal themselves as certain coworkers would show their authority by bossing other coworkers around, and then they'd go back on their word after bossing them around, and then they'd go sit in the office with Mr. Manager and just talk and do nothing. And yes, I'm going to continue to refer to this guy as Mr. Manager, by the way, derogatory, because I just hate this guy so much. And I know hate is a strong word to use, but I'm just a nice and chill person to everybody. Even if you make me upset just once, I don't dislike you. But for me to hate you must meant that you did something incredibly fucked up for me to hate you. And to that I say, I hope your day doesn't go the way that you want it out to be. Shortly, this would become a pattern for the next several weeks until like 4 months later, I decide to send my first complaint in. I tried to look back for the emails on the burner account that I used, but since then it seems like traces of it got wiped because I had too much storage on it. And, I was smart about not using my actual name in the emails because the last time I heard about someone emailing HR with their name in the email about problems, that it taught me that confidential is not actually kept confidential and your name will be in fact name dropped. And there's actually another reason to why I didn't straight up go to the general manager about this to talk about it, which is usually preferred that you talk it out in person. But I heard that someone got their shifts threatened to be cut out because he had a complaint about him. So that's why I've just been sending emails. But in general, the emails were just addressing that Mr. Manager was letting certain coworkers off the hook when they should be in trouble for them, and that he was also just smoking when it wasn't his break, and that it was just super busy and he was doing all of that. And after the email, Mr. Manager would change his ways, put those coworkers back to work, and he'd only smoke when it's not busy. Yeah, no, that's not exactly what happened, and that's also why you're here watching this video right now. Like, I literally wish it was just called right there, because eventually, 1 or 2 months, me and a few others thought he had improved. In fact, he was helping us during busy times and asking if we needed help. But that was literally the only thing that kind of changed. I'll give him credit to that. But I mean kind of, because he kept doing the thing that I was mostly complaining about in the email. His favoritism. By now, coworkers who I thought were pretty chill were changing and molding themselves into his own skin by becoming this guy's clone. And not only that, but this person, who I'd soon very much loathe, would also become the spawn of Satan. This is the whole story for next time, because it's pretty long, but all you need to know is how I feel about this person is the fact that I aspire to be hating on the same level as Kendrick Lamar is with Drake. Anywho, Mr. Manager has gotten his own army of minions and is now 10 times worse than before, constantly allowing specific people to continue sitting around in the office because he likes them so much. At this point, a few coworkers and I are fed up, and we didn't want this workplace to go into shit for new people coming in. So we took it upon ourselves to rally a few others to email HR about this problem that has been slowly brewing. And Mr. Manager and his clones would all change their ways and the workplace is saved. And that's what would have happened in an alternate universe, because no, it's literally in the title, it does not stop there. It escalates, and now some of the managers are on our asses trying to stomp out the very fire that they started, and Mr. Manager gets a slap on the ass and he walks free. But now, he comes back fuming.
To be voted the most hated man in America, Randall!
In a country full of Neanderthals, I wear the fucking badge of honor.
What about the rumors that you're mentally imbalanced?
Who the fuck said that?
He wants to know who's sending all of these emails about him, and the first thing that this guy's thought was, it's gotta be me sending all of these emails, pretending to be different people. Now, how does one come to this conclusion? Simple. One of Mr. Manager's minions gone ahead and began isolating and interrogating one of my coworkers, asking who it was who sent all of these emails. How do I know this? The person who was interrogated told me, and he was scared because he was literally, and I mean literally, cornered by this guy. Fucking crazy to do that in a workplace, by the way. So okay, name dropped. But yet again, they can't prove it's me because I know not to leave a paper trail, aka leaving my actual name in the emails, and that they can't get me in trouble because I have basically done nothing problematic at work that they can get me in trouble for. Well, actually, there was this one time where it felt like Mr. Manager had something personal against me, and I overheard, worse than Satan herself, and Mr. Manager talking about cutting my shift within earshot of me. And it did sound kind of personal, because they chose me out of all of the people there, thinking I wouldn't respond back. And I think I said something along the lines of that I didn't want to be there anyway, and that I'm leaving. They both didn't think that I'd respond to that, and they both fell silent. That was like one of the first times I actually stood up for myself, and to be honest, it was super cathartic. Would do it again. A few more weeks fly by, and it progressively gets worse for me because I've been constantly giving away my shifts, and I also have my own little crash out moment because of this whole workplace being a hellhole. I literally did not want to work at this place anymore, but I needed money, so I didn't quit just yet. And so I'm going to explain how I got into this predicament in the first place. And that is my coworker, the same one that got interrogated, comes to me and tells me that Mr. Manager one evening shift went on a whole rant about on how he's going to find evidence that it was me sending in all of these complaints, and that I quote, he said he had people who are going to try and track who and where these emails were coming from. First of all, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. Secondly, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. Thirdly, you cannot literally do that without legally getting into trouble. If he did that, I would literally sue his ass right then and there. Like, I'm going to be real. You could have chosen anything. And I mean literally anything that isn't doxing me. Like, isn't that considered harassment and stalking? And I'm pretty sure this is why emails are literally supposed to be kept confidential, because of people like you doing exactly what you're doing. Mind you, a middle-aged man with kids, by the way, is more concerned that his own employees are complaining about his favoritism at his position of power, decides to beef with me, a person who's probably the same age as his own kids, and invade my privacy. But yeah, I'm never going to let this story down ever. I am taking this story to the grave. I will not shut up about it. But yeah, nothing ever really happened after that. I just knew that he was out to get me some way or another. Which he kinda did, but it ended up dragging another person into the problem that he started, so. But that's a whole other story time that I can probably rant on for about 30 minutes non-stop, because it was literally that bad. I knew he wanted to fire me, but he couldn't, and I quit before he could fire me. So if you ever embarrass yourself or get secondhand humiliation from someone else, just know that my manager exists. And you'll feel 100 times better knowing that you aren't him. So chat, what did we learn here today? If a workplace has a high employee turnover rate and you see your best coworkers quit left and right, I think it's time to leave. Actually, not I think. You should leave. Get out of there while you still can. It's not worth your mental health. I speak from experience. So let me know if you have any workplace horror stories in the comments. I'd definitely love to shit on whether that be horrible management or the customers. And before we get into the end of the video, I'd just like to thank you, Sammy, again for being a continuous support and friend. Without you, I would have never began making videos again. So, thank you! And if you'd like to get your name shouted out at the end of the video, or just want to get early access to some of my content or behind the scenes, feel free to head over to my Patreon, link in the description below. Generosity is optional and all your support would be appreciated. Bye bye!